This is Real Talk Radio. This is Real Talk. High Praise Ministries presents Real Talk. This is Real Talk. Real Talk Radio. This is Real Talk. High Praise Ministries presents Real Talk.
And welcome to another edition of Real Talk. High Praise Ministry present Real Talk. As always, I am your host, Jesse Jones. We're about to get this thing started, but as always, I want to give a fresh shout out first to my boy, Russell Worthy. He is a High Praise Ministries graphics design artist. Please visit our merchandise website, the High Praise Ministries merchandise website at Zazzle.com/DA_REV. That's Zazzle, ZAZZLE.com/DA_REV. Also want to give a shout out to my boy Mike Gibbs. He is the producer, the mastermind behind the jingle that you hear at the beginning and end of every show. Also want to give a shout out to my boy Rashawn Truss. He is the vocalist behind the jingle that you hear. So I want to give shouts out to them. They've helped me out tremendously, trying to help make this podcast better and better. And I promise you, we're going to keep getting better and better as we go forward. Also, as always, I want to give a shout out to my queen. She is the executive producer of Real Talk. Once again, she's not here to co-host with me on today. She's taking care of some other business. We may be having just me for a little while, so I don't know how it's going to go. Like I said at the beginning when she first got here, she wasn't always going to be on, and she didn't have to always be on. I didn't want to force her, make her think that this was something she had to do. This is Real Talk is my baby, so I know you all enjoy hearing the queen, but there may be some episodes, especially going forward, that she may or may not be on. I don't know. I generally don't know until I decide to do the podcast, but we want to give shouts out to her anyway. Queen Minister Philonda. She is the executive producer of Real Talk. So I want to give shouts out to all of them. Also, before we get too deep in, I want to send prayers and our thoughts and well wishes, and we plead the blood of Jesus, and we want to cover all of the troops who have been deployed into this senseless, what's seeming to turn out to be war that our president has gotten us into with Iran. Despite what everybody wants to say or think about it, listen, whether you like President Trump or whether you don't, it's irrelevant. We have young men, young women going over there to defend us, to fight for us, even if it's just simply at the behest of a petty president. Now they're in harm's way, and we want to keep them covered. So if you have family and friends who are overseas, our prayers are with you as the family and friends as well. Our prayers are with those troops. We wish them well. We pray a safe return, and we're praying for a speedy end to this senseless violence. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So today, and I got a little more energy than I had last week. I would say I apologize for the lack of energy last week, but I don't. I really don't. Sometimes I'm up, sometimes I'm down. It's one of the things that makes this podcast different from me than anything else that I do. Most everything else I do, I have to be on. And by on, I mean I have to be full of energy and full of life and doing those kinds of things. But with this podcast, I have the opportunity to just kind of let my hair down, as it were. And if I'm having a non-energy day, I can speak to you all in a non-energy kind of way because I don't feel like having energy. But today's not one of them days. I got some energy today. I got a little bit of pep in my step today. So here's what I want to do. I want to talk today about you. And by you, I mean you. Like you, and I'm included in the you. I want to deal with two topics in particular on today that in as real a way as I can. I'm gonna be honest. I know the topics because I'm the one that brought them out, but I have no idea where I'm gonna go with this today. Like, I really didn't do a whole lot of formulating out and mapping out what I want to say and how I want to say it, things like that. Because this is another one of those ones. I just want to come straight from the heart and just deal with some things. That's one of the beauties again about this podcast. I get to just come and shoot straight from the hip. So I want to talk about forgiveness of self. I also want to deal a little bit, if we have some time a little later on, with self-worth. All right, so I want to deal with those two things first. Let's talk about forgiveness of self. Forgiving yourself. It is one of the hardest things for people, not just Christians, people to do. For some reason, and I think it's a lot more pervasive in this generation, in this era, than any other time I have been alive. I know I ain't been alive that long, but I've been alive long enough to have seen some things and to have experienced some things and understood some things. And man, it is so much harder to be allowed to make a mistake. And here's the thing. We are harder on our own selves than other people are on us, and especially harder on ourselves than God is on us. We have this ideology of perfection that has to happen, and we can't make a mistake, and we can't do anything wrong, and so we will hide ourselves, and we will box ourselves in, or even worse, we will hide our wants and our desires for fear of judgment, not by other people, but the reality is we have already judged ourselves and put ourselves in a place of condemnation, put ourselves in a place of shame over something that is not really shameful. And here's the truth, even if the thing is shameful, what happened to the place where in the time where we were able to forgive ourselves? What happened to forgiveness? We, especially as Christians, will be ready to forgive just about everybody else in the world but us. We won't forgive ourselves. We hold ourselves to a higher standard than God holds us to. Especially, let you get just a little bit of position. Let you have a little bit of position in the church, or let you have a little position in life. Because parents are like this as well. It's not just church folk and pastors and leaders in church. It's parents, it's managers, it's supervisors at your job. We have this feeling like we just have to be perfect. We're not allowed to make a mistake. We're not allowed to know. And when we do, we beat ourselves up. There are things that we hold ourselves accountable for that happened 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. When are we going to let ourselves off the hook? When are we going to accept the fact that sometimes you just screw up? And yeah, you may have to deal with the consequences of that screw up, but what happens is we wind up not only living with the consequences of that screw up, we stay in the consequences of that screw up. We will never allow ourselves to get better. We are the epitome of the 12-step program. And let me tell you what I mean by that. Those who have been at Next Level Service, they know what I mean by that. But let me tell you what I mean by that. So what I mean by we are the epitome of the 12-step program is this. When you go to any anonymous type meeting, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Drugs Anonymous, those types of things. I've never been, but I know people who have done them. I know of people who have been through them, people who have counseled them, those types of things, and it absolutely is true. You are that thing forever. You could have been an alcoholic, and when you go to these meetings, you introduce yourself as an alcoholic. And after you introduce yourself with your name and state that you're an alcoholic, then they tell you, or they have you, if you're going to talk, you wind up saying how many days you've been clean. My name is Jesse Jones, and I am an alcoholic. It has been 6,433 days since my last drink. It has been 15 months, 4 days, and 6 hours since my last drink. And you keep holding yourself to the standard of being something you really aren't. That's how we actually do in our own lives. We will hold ourselves to the standard of being the thing of our mess up, our greatest mess up or our less mess up, whatever mess up really affects us, that really got to us, that thing that we say, man, I never thought I would do that. That's the thing we hold ourselves to, and we allow other people to not only hold us to it, we allow them to treat us like dirt as a result of it, because we're holding ourselves to that standard of lowness of that moment or those moments in our lives that we are the least proud of. And it affects every area of your life. It affects you feeling worthy of anything. It affects you feeling like you're good enough for anything. You wind up always expecting yourself to screw up because way back in 1995, I screwed this thing up. And you wind up carrying a burden on yourself that you don't deserve. Listen, I'm all for calling whatever it is what it is. I'm all for, if you a hoe, let's call you a hoe. I know that's not PC in this culture. I'm all for, if you're a woman beater, we call you a woman beater. If you're a child molester, we call you a child molester. If you're a murderer, we call you a murderer. I'm all for calling a thing what it is. And I'm talking about in the natural. I'm not even dealing in the spiritual, where I know that God can see us past our faults and God does those things. He doesn't call us as we are. He calls us as we shall be. I get all that. But I'm talking about simply in the natural. I'm all for calling those things that are what they are. But my question is when does what was stop being what is? It has been years since you've done the thing. And you're still saying you're recovering. Well, when do you recover? You've been a recovering alcoholic for 30 years. When do you recover? And don't give me this stuff of you never recover because it only takes one slip up. Here's the truth. Here's a news flash for you. It only takes one slip up for any of us to spiral back into something. It only takes one slip up for any of us to spiral into something. That's how sin is. That's how entrapment is. That's how strongholds are. It only takes one time for it to have the ability to try to slide you back in. But while you haven't hit that one time, that means you aren't it. That doesn't mean you have the right. If you used to be an alcoholic, that doesn't mean you should go and hang out at bars and be around everybody else who drinks and you just try not to drink. No, I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is, just because you don't do that anymore and you do that to keep yourself from slipping again, does not mean that you are still an alcoholic. When are you going to forgive yourself for the mess up? When are you going to stop identifying yourself with your lowest point? We do it a lot, and it weighs, and it's heavy. And so what I want you to start to work on, what I really want us to start doing in 2020 is I want us to start forgiving ourselves. Forgive ourselves. Can I give you a news flash that some people don't know? Even if you are a member of High Praise Ministries, you may not know this, or you may not have heard this, or it may not have really registered the first time you ever heard me say this. Listen, you are already forgiven. Your job is to walk through that forgiveness. So if Jesus already forgave you, the one who saw what you was going to do before you did it, watch this, and not only did he see what you were going to do before you did it, the Bible says that while you were in the midst of getting ready to do it, he made a way of escape so you don't have to do it, and yet you still did it. He still says, son, daughter, I forgive you. Get up, dust yourself off, let's go forward. There may be some consequences you're going to have to deal with. But that does not define the thing that you are. We have to stop letting our mistakes define us and start letting them build us. We try to build ourselves by our strengths, when you really have to build yourself by your weakness. The cliche that says a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Well, what that literally means is no matter how strong all of the other links are, the chain can only be as powerful as the link that is the weakest. But if you build that weak link up to be strong, you have in effect made all the other chains stronger, even if the other links never got stronger. If you have 10 links and 9 of those 10 links have 1,000 power, and that one link has 500 power, the whole chain has 500 power. But if you build that weak link up from the 500 power to 1,000 power, now the entire chain got 1,000 power. You should be built by your weakness, by your fault, by your mistake. You should not be defined by it. And we wind up defining ourselves by it, causing limitations on our lives, not accepting things that we ought to accept that should come to us because of who we actually are, but we just keep seeing this blemish. You must forgive yourself. You cannot go through life not forgiving yourself. And let me be raw with y'all, because this is real talk. I'm talking to me too. There are things that have happened over the course of my lifetime that I still hold myself accountable for. And I try, I'll be honest with y'all, I try every day to get past it, and it's hard. So I'm not saying it's easy, nor am I sitting here telling you this from a place of power and piousness. I'm telling you this from a place of humility, because I deal with it too. I deal with the place of eating and living in my mistakes and trying to get better from them, but eating and still being in my mistakes, and oftentimes defining myself by my mistakes and feeling a lack of worth. And we're going to get into worth a little later on, but feeling a lack of worth because of my mistakes. I get it. I truly get it. But the truth is, you got to forgive yourself. I have to forgive myself. You have to forgive yourself. At what point do we become greater than God? God said, I forgive you, but you can't forgive you. I ain't talking about if nobody else forgives you. I ain't dealing with them. Because people gonna do what they do. You hold yourself down and hold yourself back based off of your ability to forgive you. Based off of your ability to see how great you are. Based off of your ability to see you can grow from this. You can move from this. Stop holding yourself accountable for it. And no, it's not a promotion of sin. I'm not talking about promoting sin, but I am talking about your one sin, your 15 sin ain't gonna hold you back. Yes, you have to grow from it. Yes, you need grace. Yes, you need mercy. Yes, you need to mature from those things. But while you are yet in the process of maturity, cut yourself some slack. Forgive yourself for the mess up. Forgive yourself for the stupid stuff you did. Forgive yourself. Forgiveness is one of the greatest gifts that God has ever given to us, and we give it to everybody else and withhold it from ourselves. And what we wind up doing now, because we can't forgive ourselves, we will now nitpick for everybody else to try to bring them down a notch so that we can feel better about our own mess. So that we can feel like somebody else is in the same boat as we are. So since I'm bad, they're bad. Or better yet, at least I ain't as bad as them. That mentality comes because you haven't forgiven yourself. And no, since this is not a message we ain't going to deal with and talk in detail about the process of how you can go about forgiving yourself. We ain't gonna do that. I just want to give you the message of, come on, time to forgive yourself, because this is getting crazy. The amount of people I have talked to and deal with that just have issues that they cannot get past, that God is like, dude, it's done. Forget about it. Grow from it. Move from it. It happened. And I knew it was going to happen. And I'm okay with you. So you be okay with you. And we keep apologizing to God for it. We keep crying about it. We keep beating ourselves up about it. And every so often we wind up going back in that mindset. Oh my God, I'm so stupid. I'm so dumb. And we talk to ourselves like we are the lowest dog. And we would never talk to other people like that. We would never talk to anybody the way we talk to ourselves. The stuff we do, man, for real. It's time to forgive self. Release yourself from it. If you struggle with the thing, okay, work on the struggle. But forgive yourself while you're working on the struggle. I feel like sometimes, and I'm going to be churchy because I can't help but be who I am. I feel like sometimes in the church, one of the things we don't do well, we don't allow for the process for our own or for others, but especially for our own, which is why we don't allow it for others. We put on the front in church like we give ourselves grace and like we have forgiven ourselves and we are so perfect and we understand. But when we get home, though, the stuff we put ourselves through, the prayers that we pray to God about the stuff that we've done wrong. Give yourself some grace. Give yourself some mercy. Give yourself some forgiveness. Give yourself some rope. You are killing you because you won't forgive you. How messed up is that? What kind of jacked up self-suicide is that? That you are killing your own self because you won't forgive you. You stunted yourself in the thing. And you won't move past it. And as I said before, you allow others to not let you move past it. I ain't 5 years old no more. So why would I try to put on 5-year-old clothes? Clothes when I was 5 years old. I can't fit those clothes when I was 5 years old. I'm pounds right now. 6'2" pounds. I can't fit what I wore when I was 5 years old. I had to move past it and get some new clothes. Well, move past the thing and get some new clothes. Stop trying to wear the thing. Stop identifying yourself with the thing. Forgive yourself. It is a thing I feel like people in general, including church folk, but people in general, just need to learn how to do. Forgive yourself. You messed up, so what? If you can make it right, but move on. If you got to apologize, then apologize, but then move on. You are not that thing anymore. You are not that person anymore. Don't even play to the idea of you being that person anymore. It's over. Saturday at Next Level Service, I preached a message called The Book is Closed. God gave me that revelation that the demons that you fought over the last 10 years, you will never have to fight again. That book is closed. Well, close the book on those things too. Close the book on the thing that you won't forgive yourself for. that stain on your own name, that stain on your legacy, that really is no longer there. Thank you, God. I appreciate that. We have a type of spiritual body dysmorphia as it relates to the things and the ways that we see ourselves. We see these stains that God said, I'm done with. That's over. Forget about it. We still trying to make up for it. We still trying to do extra for it. We still trying to prove ourselves to ourselves. Stop it. Forgive yourself. Because if you don't, you got a hard road ahead of you. Let me tell you something, and then we're going to get ready to take a break. Most people ain't going to agree with this, ain't going to like it. I don't care. I'm starting to learn that you need to be nicer to yourself than you are to anybody else. Because watch this. How can I do unto others as I would have them do unto me if I don't do me well first? People learn how to treat you 2 ways, 3 ways really. By how they see others treat you, by how you allow people to treat you or how you allow them to treat you, and how you allow you to treat yourself. People will treat you with respect if you treat yourself with respect. So when you don't forgive you and you are saying all these horrible things about yourself, yeah, I know some people who are listening who know me, you're like, popcorn the kettle. I said I'm working on it. Don't trip, you ain't through with me yet. I got a lot of things I'm trying to work on, a lot of things I'm trying to build myself in 2020 from my own deficiencies. Forgiveness of myself is one. We're going to talk about the other in a minute, because that's a huge one for me that I'm trying to learn how to walk better in. And as I'm trying to learn how to walk better in, I want to be able to give these nuggets out to somebody else who may be struggling like I am, who may be dealing with the things like I am. And I can say it because I just can say it, but I want to be one of the ones to say it, because you don't often hear people in my position pastorally. A lot of y'all don't even know me, but that's all right. But I am a pastor, and a lot of people don't hear pastors say they struggle with this thing. They struggle with the mess ups that they have done, the things that they missed from God, the things that they thought that they had and they just didn't get it right, and so they missed the opportunity, they missed the blessing. They missed the mark. And every Sunday they get up to have to preach, and yet still struggle with that. Because forgiveness of self, you can't pray away. You can't pray yourself into forgiving yourself. You can't fast yourself into forgiving yourself. You can't read your Bible into forgiving yourself. You can't do praise and worship into forgiving yourself. You can't lay at the altar long enough to forgive yourself. You just simply have to look in yourself in the mirror and forgive yourself. Say, look, I know you ain't perfect. You messed up. Come on, let's try and get this thing right. Build the trust in you back up for you. Because you're committing suicide if you don't. You literally are. Because if you can't forgive yourself, you can't grow. And anything that's not growing is dying. And lastly, I'll say this before we take this break. Please understand that your issue, your mess up, your mistake, your oopsie, your sin, your whatever, is not always the reason that you're going through what you're going through. God is not always punishing you for everything you've done. Everything that you have messed up for and the struggle that you're dealing with is not always a direct result of some mess up that you had. Sometimes it's just a part of the process to get you to where you need to go. Oftentimes, actually, it's just a part of the process to get you where you need to go. So stop thinking that you're not worthy and that you're going through, or that you're sick, or that you're poor, or that you ain't got nobody, or whatever, because you did this, that, or the third. That ain't the case. Yes, God is a God of judgment and will judge you. Yes, God will correct you. Yes, God will punish you. But do you understand how sometimes how long that takes? And there's no question when God's judgment is coming upon your life. There's no question for you that is God's judgment, because he will let you know he is judging you before he does it. He gives you one last opportunity to get it right. It's biblical. Look all throughout the Bible. He gave people one more shot to get it right before he wouldn't kill them, before he wouldn't judge them. He told Abraham, if you can find one righteous person in either Sodom or Gomorrah, you ain't got to find one in each city, just find one, and both cities and all their sin will be spared. I'm trying to give them a chance to get it right before I judge them, because I don't want to have to pour my wrath out upon you. If you are a parent, you understand this. You don't want to have to spank your child. You don't want to have to put them in timeout or ground them or take things away from them. You don't want to have to do that. But you understand that at this moment, because they have not heard clear direction, you have no other alternative but to give them some form of discipline. And when you do, if you are a wise parent, you let the child know that why they're being disciplined. We out here and going through the process, and we saying that God is judging us for stuff he ain't judging us for. God ain't thinking about that, but you do have to go through a process to get to where he needs you to get to. So I need you to forgive yourself. 2020, start forgiving yourself. Wake up every day. As you brush your teeth, look yourself in the mirror and say, I forgive you. You didn't get it all the way right. You weren't perfect. You messed up. But I forgive you. I forgive you. If nobody else forgives you, I forgive you. We'll be right back with some more of Real Talk. Are you tired of church as usual? Are you looking for something different? Do you need a real, relevant word that's impactful and will reach you right where you're at? Then High Praise Ministries is the ministry for you. Come fellowship with us every Saturday at 1 p.m. here at 3466 Holcomb Bridge Road in Norcross, Georgia. Here at High Praise Ministries, we believe in bringing forth a real, raw, relevant word to reach you wherever you're at, no matter what you're going through. No judgment, no fuss. We'll have you in and out in an hour and a half of power-packed word and worship. So come, fellowship with us. Come see what the difference is all about. High Praise Ministries Next Level Service. We're the real raw church of purpose, and we are college for your soul. Well, all right. We back. All right. So we just finished talking about forgiveness of self and the importance thereof. Next thing I want to talk about, next thing on the docket to talk about, is another one of those things that I struggle with myself. This is quite possibly one of my own personal biggest struggles I have. But it's worth noting that I'm working on it. And as I know I have to work on it, I want to encourage anybody else who deals with it to work on it. And I want to talk about your self-worth. For some people who know me saying I struggle with my own self-worth is a shock. And that's because if you're around me, I can come off very confident. I to the point where some people have confused me with being arrogant. I come off very, very poised and confident. I come off that way. But I do it on purpose because I don't want people to see the cracks behind the armor, the chinks behind the armor. And it's not that I'm trying to be two-faced or deceive people or what have you. It's quite honestly, I don't trust most people with my own vulnerability. And so what the reality is, privately, when I don't have to be on for people, struggle with self-worth. It is a huge battle of mine every day. Feeling like I'm worth it. Feeling like I deserve to be here. Feeling like anybody should listen to me at all. Feeling loved and accepted. And those things are a struggle for me. On a scale of which I cannot even begin to articulate. Couldn't tell you where it comes from. I just know ever since I can remember, struggled with it. But I also tell people that the time that I feel the most confident, like truly, actually confident, the time that I feel the best is when I'm ministering. And I'm trying to get to the place where I recognize that who I am and the worth that I have when I minister is the same worth that I have when I'm not. And the catch-22 of that is that I often will go far and above and beyond to give of myself or open myself or be there for people or whatever, in an effort to continue to feel worthy and worth it. And so the struggle of self-worth is real. And so I bring that to you, and I put that out there on the table because someone else is struggling with that. Whether it's because of your past, it's just something that you've always secretly dealt with because very few people live with that out loud. Very few people, very few people let you know that this is something they deal with. They just deal with it because if you have not really dealt with it and don't know the weight of it, you don't really understand. And nobody speaking to you can help you understand it. But self-worth struggle is hard. And so what do we do as Christians? As Christians, we try to lean on God and on the Word of God, and we look at all the things that God says that we are. We are the head and not the tail. We are above and not beneath. We are the lender and not the borrower. We are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people, God's own chosen. We are the beloved of God. We are the righteousness of God. We lean on these scriptures in the Word of God, and we hear them and we read them. And what we will oftentimes do, or let me just be personal and say it this way, what I oftentimes do is I will insert everybody else's name before I insert mine. I have a hard time with gratitude as a result of my self-worth. Not giving thanks. I'm always grateful, but receiving it. I have a hard time receiving gifts or compliments because of the self-worth. It's a struggle. It's a very real struggle that it oftentimes feels like it's misunderstood or not understood at all. But we have to work on our self-worth in 2020. And I say we because I definitely am putting myself in that category. Self-worth is important. You have value. You have an intrinsic value beyond your ability. What do I mean when I say beyond your ability? If you're a giver, you have value beyond your giving to people. If you're a person who listens, you have value beyond your listening skills. If you give great advice, you have value beyond your advice. If you're an athlete, you have value beyond your athletic skill. If you're a musician or a singer, you have value beyond your talent and your gift. If you're a preacher, you have value beyond your ministry. You have a value that is not related nor connected to what you do. If you never did anything else, you have to realize, regardless of that fact or not, you'd still have value. You have value to God, you have value to people around you, you have value. It's a hard thing though. It's a hard thing to really take a look at. It's a hard thing to really admit because people don't understand it. And it's a hard thing to walk around with because people don't understand it. People oftentimes wind up having, like I said earlier, to be on so that they don't have to answer the questions. They have to be on so they don't have to deal with the misunderstandings, the side eyes, or the side conversations. You ever take a moment and just sit and reflect and people around, and the first thing they say to you is, "What's wrong?" I'm just reflecting. It's because they expect you to be on. And we have relegated our worth to the applause of people, to the reaction of people. I was listening to some people during Thanksgiving and Christmas. I've done it the last couple of years, actually. I just listen to people talk, and they always talk about this high they get from helping someone else. This grandiose, great feeling. Their heart just fills with joy because they have the opportunity, nay, the privilege of helping someone else. And I always say to people who say that, I say, what's that feel like? Because I don't get that. And then I ask the tough question. Or I don't think it's a tough question, but it has been received as a tough question. Sometimes it's been received as being sarcastic or whatever. I say, well, if you didn't get the applause, if you didn't get that warm and fuzzy feeling, would you still do it? Because I do it without the warm and fuzzy. I do it without the applause. I do it without the recognition or whatever. So would you do it without it? And I never really get an answer from people because they think I'm being smart. But what I'm trying to get them to realize is they're attaching worth to people, a reaction and a feeling. When true value has nothing to do with a reaction. Follow me on this. So, a house that is valued at $1 million is worth $1 million because it's worth $1 million. Whether you want it or not, whether you think it's worth $1 million or not, it's worth $1 million because it's worth $1 million. Watch this. It may be sold to you for under $1 million but it's still worth $1 million. Because its value is not connected to your opinion. Its value is not connected to what you feel like you want to pay for it. Its value is not connected to anything other than the fact that it is what it is. And the only way in general there's two ways really in general to bring value down is you have to either mess the product up or surround it with garbage. This is why people who own homes get upset when somebody comes into the neighborhood, buys a home around them, and their yard and their house look like trash. They say you're bringing the property value down. It's not that you moved here. It's that everything around you moving here looks like trash, so it makes everything else become lower value because of your trash. If you get in $1 million home and you put holes in the wall and cat piss all on the carpets and food stains all on the couches and handprints and cartoon permanent marker drawings all on the walls, and it smells like weed and hair products and cocoa butter. When you go to sell that house, it's not going to be worth $1 million because you messed its value up. But in and of itself, the house is still worth $1 million. Your value is not tied to people. And yes, so much easier for me to say about you than it is for me to say for myself. But I'm trying to hear my own words too. Your value is not tied to people. Your value is not tied whether they stay or go. Your value is not tied to your friends around you. Your value is not tied, well, no, it kind of is tied to your friends around you, because if you got garbage friends, it brings your value down, just like property values. But your value is not tied to their opinion of you. Your value is not tied to social media likes, social media comments, or shares. Your value is not tied to that. Your value is what it is. And the sad truth is, most of us go through life never knowing our true value. Never knowing what our true value is. If I asked you right now what you're worth, those who are listening, and I told you couldn't give me the cliche answer and say, I'm priceless. Because that's what we'll say. We love to use that one. We'll use that one because we know that's what we're supposed to say. Ooh, I'm priceless. And we don't even know what priceless looks like. If I ask you right now, what is your value? What are you worth? Could you articulate it? One of the definitions of the word value is importance or meaning, force, significance. Another one says liking or affection, favorable regard. In sociology, they say value is the ideals, customs, institutions, etc. of a society towards which the people of the group have an effective regard. These values may be positive as cleanliness or freedom or education, or negative as cruelty, crime, or blasphemy. Do you know what you're worth? Do you know what your importance is? Do you know what the ideals are that formulate who you are? Let me say it this way. Do you know how much work went into making you? And no, I'm not talking about the 2.5 minutes of pumping that your daddy did to your mama. Well, I'm sorry, I'm a pastor. I ain't supposed to say that. I'm talking about the actual work that went into creating you. The importance that God put on your life so much to give you life. What you did with it was up to you. But he gave you life. And then he made sure that at some point, whether or not you had the greatest parents in the world or not is irrelevant. He put someone in your life. Whether or not you had the greatest teachers in the world or not is irrelevant. He put someone in your life to impart positivity into you, to impart something of importance into you. Whether you recognize it or not is up to you, but he thought enough about you to make sure you had something or someone that would impart something into you to help form and make and fashion you to be the great person that you are. You just don't see it, and then what you have the audacity to do is speak horribly about yourself because you don't see it. You don't see the value in you. Your greatest commodity is you. Your greatest attribute is you. If rarity is supposed to help bring up the value of something, Nike shoe, the Air Jordans that cost thousands of dollars are because they're rare, they're in mint condition, and they're rare to get. Baseball cards, when people used to do and trade baseball cards, you would get if you got a rare rookie card of some great legend, it has worth, it has value because it's rare. Do you understand? You are the rarest commodity in all the world. You cannot be remanufactured nor reproduced. You are the only one of you. That makes you the most valuable you there is. Get your self-worth together. Your self-worth is important. And I really want to see us value ourselves more, including me. I'm trying. I ain't going to be perfect. So all y'all who know me, who are listening, don't hold me too hard to this. I mean, hold me to it, but don't hold me too hard to it. I'm a work in progress. I'm trying. But I want to encourage people while I try, while they try. Understand how great you are. And listen, if nobody else has told you this today, allow me to be the one to tell you, you are great. You are appreciated. You are loved. You have worth. You have value. You have meaning. You are important. We love you. Take those words to heart. Take them to heart. Don't sacrifice yourself for the opinionated value of others. Don't degrade yourself for the irrelevant value of others. I tell the young ladies that I counsel all the time when they're dealing with some no good dude. I tell them this all the time because I mean it and it's true. And oftentimes even those young ladies I deal with who are upset because they can't get a man or they don't think they can get a man. I say this all the time because it's true. Only people who can afford a Rolls Royce generally know where to go to buy one. Do you understand that a Rolls Royce is still the epitome of cars? I know people talk about the Bugatti more. People may still talk about the Jaguar more. People talk about the Cadillacs a lot more. People may talk about a Lexus more. But the epitome of driving machinery is a Rolls Royce. It still is. And it is rare to find a Rolls Royce dealership unless you know where to find one. Unless you have the value and monetary means to obtain one. Yeah, we have Google now, but you Google the Rolls Royce dealership and go to the Rolls Royce dealership and you'll see why. They're hard to find. When you get on the lot, the price that you see on the car is the price that it is. A Rolls Royce don't go on sale. Not from the dealer. It don't go on sale. It is what it is. They won't even let you test drive the car without a credit check first. They want to see if you are even worthy enough to test drive the car. And I tell them this because I want them to understand that some people just can't afford your value. They can't afford how much you're worth. Don't put yourself on sale for them. Some people can't afford your worth, so they will try to downgrade your value and your importance because they're upset that they don't have the cachet enough to be around you. They will try and get a counterfeit and or try to be a counterfeit. And if you allow them in your sphere, they will abuse you, not necessarily physically, but they will abuse that privilege of being around you because they don't understand value. They can't afford your value, and so they don't respect what it takes to be you. And so they will abuse your value. You have worth. You have value. I want you to take some time and recognize your value. I want you to take some time, recognize your greatness. I want you to take some time and recognize just how outstanding you are. Talk yourself up. Even if it's just once a day, you look at yourself and you're like, you know what? I can walk. Start there. Start giving yourself credit for the small things. I'm reminded of the movie Coach Carter. There's a scene in the movie when they're in practice and Samuel Jackson plays Coach Carter. He's really ticked off because of how they looked in the game the night before and how they were showboating over every little thing he did, over every little thing they did. So he gets to practice and he starts acting like them. Saying, woo, did you see that? I tied my shoe. Woo, I did that. I tied my shoe. Yeah, I did that. Look at that knot. I did that. Man, yeah, high five. High five, man, I did that. And he does that because he wants them to recognize that everything does not deserve applause. It's a team game. But I want you to do that because I need you to build your own confidence up. I need you to build your own self-worth back up. And one of the ways you build value up is by building it up. You talk positively about it. If I was to tell you about the chair I'm sitting in, you don't know what it looked like. You don't know how old the chair is. But let me tell you, it's one of the most comfortable chairs I have ever sat in. I have had it and kept it for well over 10 years. It has stayed with me. It is my chair. I'm not talking about my recliner outside the living room where I love my recliner. And my recliner is wonderful. It don't compare to this chair right here. It is wonderful. It is comfortable. It just caresses your butt and your back just nicely and just sitting and you just feel comfortable. It is wonderful. It is the best chair you could ever sit in. I have yet in the 38 years of my life sat in a more comfortable chair. And if I were to tell you that this is a wonderful deluxe chair, that I would be willing to part with it, and I'd be willing to part with it for $3,500, I'm not. But if I were to tell you that, based off of how I spoke about this chair, you might believe that this chair is worth $3,500. I have built it up. Build yourself up. And eventually you will catch up to the words you give yourself. Get yourself worth. Get yourself worth. It's a wonderful thing. I'm working on it. I really, really am. A lot of things I'm trying to work on in 2020. I really, really am. And as I go on this journey at different times through this podcast, I'm going to take you on the journey with me. Some different times, some different things I'm going to bring up and talk about in real talk, because it's real talk. I'm going to take you on with me in order to help us both from a perspective that you probably have never heard before. Talk about a lot of things, but some of this journey I'm going to be on in this year, I'm going to take you through. So I hope today has been interesting for you. I don't have a real talk banter. I believe I've been heavy enough that I don't need a final thoughts. So I want to thank you all for tuning into Real Talk. I want to give an early birthday shout out to my granddaughter, Layla. Tomorrow, January 9th, is her birthday. We will be in town in Columbus, Ohio on January 11th for her birthday party and for Next Level Service. And I will be preaching at Christ Southern Missionary Baptist Church on January 12th. That's 727 Stambaugh Avenue. If you wind up listening to this before that time. Would love to see your face and have you all come out. Please be a support in any way that you can. Please support the podcast. Please like this podcast, subscribe to Anchor and to Spotify, and share this podcast on your social media websites. Let some people know that they can be forgiven and that they should have a high self-worth. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not talking about being prideful, just simply talking about having a high self-worth, a high self-value. Match the value of what God sees in you. Please stop past our merchandise store at Zazzle, ZAZZLE.com/DA_REV. That's Zazzle, ZAZZLE.com/DA_REV. I want to thank Anchor, my host podcast, my host platform, I should say, for this podcast. I want to thank all of my valued listeners, my valued listener subscribers. You can do that as well. You can find out how to do that on Anchor. Please join us for High Praise Ministries Next Level Service. We are in that's Stone Mountain, Lord. We are in Norcross every Saturday, except for this Saturday because we'll be in Columbus. But every Saturday at 1 p.m., 3466 Holcomb Bridge Road, Norcross, Georgia, inside of Foundations of the World Church. Come on out. We'd love to speak. We'd love to have you fellowship with us. If not, you can catch us on Facebook on the High Praise Ministries Facebook page. You can join service that way as well. We stream every service live at 1 p.m. If you have any questions, if you have any suggestions, some things that you would like to talk about, or even just questions you would like to ask me, you can email me at realtalkhpm@gmail.com. That's realtalkhpm@gmail.com. Listen, as I always say, I love you. I bless God for you. Right now, I'm out of time, but not out of word. And remember, whatever you do, especially in this day and age, always keep it real. This has been the Real Talk Podcast. Thanks for listening.
This is Real Talk Radio. This is Real Talk. High Praise Ministries presents Real Talk. This is Real Talk. Radio. This is Real Talk. High Praise Ministries presents Real Talk. Real Talk.